Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 at the game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. And as always, we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. The chairman of the board, David Reed, is here today. Hello, David Reed.
I just got accosted by Adam Vingan as he's leaving to verify that you're only going to talk about L'Jarius Sneed for one segment today.
It may be a little bit longer.
Okay.
We may end up, it may be just a little bit longer.
It's a good thing there. I didn't make that bet then, huh?
Did you think about making the bet?
No, I did not. I knew better.
See, you've been here long enough now. I do have one question for you, though. In the time that we've been together, can you tell that I have anxiety?
Well, you were still monitoring the show and everything that's going on in the show while you were sitting on a beach in Costa Rica. So yes, I can tell you have anxiety.
So I'm always I'm always anxious, especially about the show, about a lot of things in life. Sometimes I get really skinny because I don't eat because I'm so anxious. And sometimes I get really fat because I eat way too much because I'm so anxious. I don't know. I do it all, though. I do the therapy. I've done the medication. I've done the reading. I've done the meditation. I've done it all. So I have anxiety. The doctor told me one time, she called it high performance anxiety. So I wake up in the morning, and now I wake up at all hours of the night, but I wake up in the morning sometimes around 5, 6, 7 o'clock. And I am just like, what are we going to talk about today? Well, today I knew that Brian Callahan had a press conference at 9:30, and I knew there was going to be a lot from the press conference that we were going to break down, and we will today. But I also put some topics in there just to be ready so that, what if he gets up there and he turns into Belichick and it's all, we're just on to phase 2. And it's like, well, better have some topics ready. And so one that I prepared ahead of time today, but wanted to hear the press conference today before going all in on, was the big question of, can Brian Callahan change? Because I'm going to be honest with everybody. 3-14 was the record. That's not the most concerning thing about what happened last year. I thought Brian Callahan showed time after time after time throughout the course of last season that he was not ready to be a head coach. I want to be as fair as humanly possible. And remember that I did not push for Brian Callahan to be fired after this past season. I was not yelling and screaming saying, fire the coach, fire the coach. Now, I insisted on cleaning house, and that would be everybody above Callahan and then letting the next guy pick what he wanted to do with the head coach. I talked to a former general manager before Rand got fired, who told me, if I got hired as GM there, I would not fire Callahan. So that does not mean it's a foregone conclusion that Callahan would have been fired. And again, if I owned the team, I would have let the next guy pick what to do with Callahan, but I wasn't committed to firing Callahan either. But regardless of what happened or didn't happen, the Brian Callahan from last year has to change. And I firmly believe that if someone went up to him and said, hey, Jared Stillman on the radio says you need to change after year one, his response would probably be something along the lines of, we were 3-14 last year. Of course something needs to change. But I really wonder if Brian Callahan knows what needs to change. He talked today in the press conference about how they spent a long time thinking about the offseason program to emphasize penalties and taking care of the football, and we divided the team into 8 teams of different guys with this point system well, you do know that the big penalties that killed you last year, they were committed by guys like Isaiah Prince, who wasn't even with the team during the offseason program. He talked today about changes to the offseason, changes to the way that they need to compete, and changes on what they need to emphasize. And that sounds good when it comes to, we got to make changes after 3-14. But what needs to change is the glass that Brian Callahan drinks from. I'm just being honest. I say this as somebody who really likes Brian Callahan, the guy. But he needs to change the glass he drinks from. Many of you would say that I am glass half empty, and there's probably some truth in that. I do believe that I am a very skeptical person, for sure. But being a radio host is a different job than being a head coach. And so I don't think I'd hammer everybody every day publicly if I was the head coach, the way you all probably think I would. But can Brian Callahan adjust from his consistent glass half full approach? The red flags to me in Brian Callahan's coaching in 2024 didn't have anything to do with the scheme or the strategy or when to call timeout, or that wasn't my issue with his coaching. It had to do with his optimism. Well, Jared, he's the coach. He has to believe. I know. But his optimism last year, it was too much. Doing Taylor Lewan's podcast and saying that Will Levis was everything you'd want in a quarterback. Insisting that they thought that Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a. PT, could be the right tackle. Blaming bad offense in practice on Denard's defense is really good, or it was hot out there today. I didn't see a lot of players being held accountable during the course of the season. Mike Vrabel kicked Jeffrey Simmons out of practice and kicked Jamarco Jones, who was the starting right tackle at the time, off the team. We didn't see that with Brian Callahan. Calvin Ridley went to the media after he got 9 targets in a game, complained about not getting the ball enough, and what did they do? They drew up a game plan right for Calvin Ridley. Again, would Vrabel have done that? The Titans needed a reality check, and that usually comes from the head coach. But I'm worried that this head coach is such a nice guy and is so optimistic that he can't see it. It's not that he wakes up in the morning and he wants to believe that everything will find a way to work out. It's that he wakes up and genuinely believes it. But this is, as Tom Brady put it last year, professional football. This is not daycare. So I have to ask, what changes did Brian Callahan make? What changes does he plan to incorporate in himself for how he runs this football team? I'm going to emphasize penalties in the offseason. Can I ask how, other than saying, hey, don't do that? Hey, you know when you false start in a game, when we're at Denver and there's 70,000 screaming fans, Denver and Seattle are the 2 hardest places to play in the entire NFL. Denver is going to be locked and loaded week 1 because they went to the playoffs last year. They think they're going to beat the crap out of you. So I'm going to sit here in March and May and emphasize, hey, don't jump off sides, guy. Okay. What real changes are being made around here? He didn't make any meaningful changes to the coaching staff, with the exception of the special teams coach, with which he changed, I believe, above his pay grade, and kicking and screaming. Remember when Colt Anderson didn't just lose his job? They hired Bones Fossil, and then Kaharski put out, they're still trying to figure out what to do with Colt Anderson because Brian Callahan didn't want to fire him. Sorry, did you watch the special teams last year? Denard Wilson, first-time defensive coordinator last year. I was very unimpressed. I actually had a college coach that watched the Titans because he was watching teams that are schemed like the Ravens, Seattle, Miami, etc., who told me, they said, I watched the Titans. Their scheme, it wasn't anything like the Ravens. So he didn't make any meaningful changes to the coaching staff, except the one that he had to make and he didn't want to make. So is he going to change this year? Is he going to look at the roster and have contingencies in place for what if this, I'm holding out dear hope that this guy can play right tackle, or I'm holding out dear hope that this guy can play corner, or I'm holding up dear hope that even though we don't have any sackers on our football team, We didn't do anything to draft anybody or sign anybody who gets a lot of sacks. I'm holding out for dear life and pray that we'll be able to sack the quarterback. But if we can't, I have a contingency in place. Or is this going to be like last year where it was, oh, we'll get that taken. Don't, it was hot outside that day. I just don't know if Brian Callahan can do it. I just don't know that he has that I am going to hold everybody accountable bone in his body. Now, you don't have to be a total a-hole like Mike Vrabel or Nick Saban or one of those kind of guys to hold other people accountable. But you also can't be the nicest guy in the world. You can't be a total optimist and also be head coach. You just can't do it in the NFL. So I heard today's press conference. I heard about the emphasis on mistakes and penalties, and we thought long and hard about it. But what are you going to do differently? And what's changed about you? And I just don't know if Brian Callahan can change. Maybe I'm too skeptical, but he's too optimistic. And that has to change. 615-737-1025. That's how we're starting today. 615-737-1025. Now, there is something Brian Callahan said that they are doing this offseason that is different. And I heard it this morning and I thought, wait a minute. What? And I will be shocked if not as many people were, I don't want to say embarrassed, but how many people just rolled their eyes the way I did. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
How can you influence those things in phase 1, phase 2, even phase 3 when you don't have contact and helmets? How can you influence negative plays and penalties?
You emphasize it like crazy. We spent a lot of meeting time wise, where we went wrong last year. We did the self-scout portion of it, the technique of things, but it's just the emphasis of it, making guys aware. At some point I can take you guys through now probably isn't the perfect time for it, but just how we've set up the off-season program. I think guys have really bought into it. You can maybe ask them a few more questions and maybe they'll give you some more insight, but how we set it up, we've divided our team into competitive teams. We have 8 teams now that compete daily, which you guys have seen some of the stuff on social media, just post-practice competitions. There's points on the line for everything we do. So there's an emphasis daily, and there's negative points. So to your point, Paul, about, how do you teach it? Well, if you jump off sides in a group drill, those are negative points for your team. And so it's emphasized every day. We look at it, we talk about it. It's on our players' forefront of their minds sort of every time we step in the building. So those are the things we have to get better at for sure on top of the scheme. But I'm excited about what we've done and how we've done it, and we'll see if it pays off.
Okay, so I hope you guys followed all of that. Reed, did you follow it?
It sounds like something we did in gym class back in the 7th and 8th grade.
I'm glad that was your reaction, because I heard this during the press conference and I thought to myself, what? So Brian Callahan, again, can we play the question from Paul? Because I think Paul asked a very good question. Here we are in May. We know the Titans committed too many penalties last year. They made too many mistakes. They turned the football over too much. They rolled the ball on the ground. They did all the stupid things you could do. Here was the question Paul asked.
How can you influence those things in phase 1, phase 2, even phase 3 when you don't have contact and helmets? How can you influence negative plays and penalties?
Okay. His answer is to split the teams into 8 different teams, a mix of offense, defense, special teams, with captains and associate captains on each of those teams, with 8 guys or 10 guys, 11 guys per team. And so if you make a mistake up, that's docking 3 points. If you make a good play up, that's plus 3 points. He said today in the press conference, if Amani Hooker gets an interception, that's plus 3 points for one of Amani's 8, the team that Amani's on, of the 8 teams. But the quarterback who threw that loses 3 points for his team. So if he's on Amani's team, then that's a net of 0. And I heard this and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Am I the only one? I'm glad Reed heard the same thing I heard, because I heard that and I thought, is this the NFL? Or is this the Callahan Elementary Annual Field Day? This reminds me of when you would go to, as an elementary school student, you'd go to Vandy baseball camp. And they'd be like, okay, you guys over there, you're the Rangers. You guys over here, you're the Braves. You guys over here, you're the Indians. You guys over here, you're the Astros. That's what this sounds like. This is the NFL. And Brian Callahan, again, I said, how are you going to change as a coach? What are you going to do so that last year doesn't happen again? Because if it does, you're fired and you're probably never getting another job. What are you going to change? Well, we thought long and hard this offseason, and we've got 8 teams. We've got the blue team, the light blue team, the white team, the dark blue team, the red team, the Oiler team, and the Cam Ward team. He gets his own team. They're pumping his tires so much. What? Floyd used to tell me players only understand 2 forms of currency: money and playing time. You can run them. You can yell at them. You can show film to them. You do whatever you want. You want to get a player to understand the language they speak: money, playing time. So instead, we're going to have this made up fakakta point system about, oh yeah, let's get into it. Listen to Tony Pollard talk about this. This was Tony Pollard today. He was asked about the 8-team system. Here's what Tony Pollard said.
That's something that I kind of like that we've been doing. It just makes the team get closer. Building that connectivity, just kicking it with guys outside of football, outside of X's and O's, just learning about your teammates, learning the backstories. just doing things outside the facility with the guys. So it's a great thing for the team in the long run.
Have you been scoring some points?
What was that?
Have you been scoring some points?
Yeah, we got a good score right now.
Good.
It's about 10 or 12 guys right now. So, yeah, got about 10 guys on my team.
And, associate captain of your team?
Right now, I'm the captain of the team. The associate captain is T. Sweat. That's a good question. I'm not sure what the prize is. I just know guys are competing, making it fun, and it's a good thing to have that, that fun energy around the building.
I'm sorry. Am I the only one living on planet Earth that says, wait a minute, this is an NFL team, and we've made up 8 individual teams with some arbitrary point system. We don't even know what we get if we win, but we want to win. Dude, these are 30-year-old grown $1 million men. What are we doing? Jeffrey Simmons makes $23.5 million. You think he really gives a rat's ass about some made-up point system in the offseason that he doesn't? We don't even know what the prize is if you win. This is, I can only imagine when Brian Callahan went to Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker and said, I've got an idea, guys. You are not going to be ready for this. This is my idea. And they must have looked at him like he was a total moron. And they must have said once he left the room, well, it's him that's going to get fired for this year and not us. So whatever. I have watched maybe 1,000 of these football life documentaries they have on NFL Network. I've got it DVR'd. Every time a football life documentary comes on, it DVRs to my YouTube TV. And it is the show when I am sitting there with nothing to watch. I know you guys have had this experience too, where you're sitting on a couch and you're like, holy crap, I've got 37 streaming services. I got 100 channels on cable. I got even more on the other streaming, and there's nothing to watch. I go watch a football life documentary. I love them, whether it's Roger Staubach, Bill Walsh, Terry Bradshaw. I mean, I could go on and on and on. The story of Bill Cowher's wife, very sad. And not one time when I have watched those thousands of football life documentaries have I ever seen a guy say, I'll tell you what, because they're all old now, because they're used to be. I'll tell you what really changed for us as an organization was when Coach Landry came in and split us up into 8 teams and had us compete for a meaningless prize that nobody knew what it was about. That moment right there really took us to the top. I have never heard that. Never heard that out of Tony Dorsett's mouth. Never heard that from Roger Staubach. Never heard that from Jerome Bettis or Steve Young or Brett Favre, or I never heard that. So again, I'm looking at Brian Callahan, and I'm telling you what his problem, in my opinion, was as the coach last year. I believe he was too nice. He was too optimistic. He was too much like you guys. Bill Callahan will fix it. I don't care what the analytics and all the numbers say about PT. Bill Callahan will fix it. Well, I didn't believe that, but he did. And that optimism and everything else, it makes you feel better on May 20th, but it's not going to help you in September and October. And so they get out there, and this quarterback that he had pumped up in every interview that he did is rolling the ball on the ground to the other team. And he's going up there afterwards saying, I wish the cameras didn't catch me cursing at him. It's like, dude, this is the NFL. Who cares if you're hard on the player? Be hard on him. He's too nice. He's too optimistic. So what's he going to change? This year when Jeffrey Simmons throws a punch at training camp and then acts like a total ass in front of the fans, is he going to punish him? Or is he just going to say, well, I think we got it figured out? What is he going to change?
I have a question. This is just an OTAs thing, right? This isn't going to transfer over to training camp, because you're asking for Jeffrey Simmons to throw another punch when he's on the team with Tony Pollard, and he comes over to him when it's 102 degrees in July and be like, hey, dude, you lost points for us today. What are you doing over there?
Well, that's going to cost you more points. A punch, -5 points.
Only 5.
Don't do that.
Only 5, depending on the situation and the person. It may be worth it.
I mean, imagine if a guy's like, I was going to try to make a play on the football, but that wide receiver's on my team, so I let him catch it and run in the end zone for a touchdown because we got 8 points. I mean, again, this is the NFL. Again, my issue with Callahan, too nice, too optimistic, too easygoing. And this is what happens. It happens every time in the NFL. You transition from a hard ass, you always go get a nice guy. It always happens. You transition from a guy who's not known for strategy and Vrabel, not known for schemes, not known for smarts. He's known for toughness and accountability and really, working people hard. And you go get somebody that's the exact opposite. That's what happened here. And again, Callahan has to change or this is not going to work in the NFL. I don't care how it sounds about these extra points. Again, this is not Callahan Elementary's annual field day. This is the NFL. And yet, I don't think Callahan can change. I don't think Callahan's like, I thought long and hard about the offseason program. Did you think long and hard about that Seattle Seahawks practice when Will Levis threw an interception on the first play of the 2-minute drill? And instead of blowing the whistle and saying, do it again and making them get it right, you just said, all right, that's enough for the day. It's hot out there. Or are we just going to deduct the points and move on? -3, 615-737-1025 plus. Tony Pollard said another thing you guys have got to hear. You got to hear this. Oh, my God. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I absolutely love them. Why? Because they take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. Nobody wants to deal with a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical emergency. Nobody. And most of the time, you do not know what it will cost when you have one, if it will get fixed correctly, or if someone's just trying to sell you something that you do not need. Well, when you call Hiller, their experts are going to solve your problems, and they're going to solve them quickly. And again, I know this because I use Hiller at my home. The price you're told is the price you'll actually pay, with no hidden fees and no surprises on your bill. So book online right now by visiting happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
There is a leadership emphasis, and part of the reason I did what I did with our dividing our team up into teams is now they're all accountable to each other on that team. There's a leadership that starts to grow because now each team has a captain and an alternate, and now you've got more people in leadership spots. One of the things I think is unique about the process is it allows those guys to start to find their own voices, and it's not about an offense versus defense. It's much more of a holistic team approach to it. We encourage these guys to spend a lot more time together, both in the building and out of it. It's been a focus for us, and I think you can develop leadership. I don't think leaders are necessarily just walk into a room ready to lead. I think there's skills you have to learn. You have to have the communication as a leader. You have to know your teammates. We spend a lot more time trying to get to know each other on a level that I think is going to be beneficial to fostering more leadership for more people.
There you go. That was Brian Callahan today. Again, 8 teams. We've got a system. We want our guys to get to know each other as we're going to build. I want you to hear something Tony Pollard said today that, again, I like Callahan. I know he means well, but, dude, this is the NFL. Play the cut.
Do you feel like that program has kind of increased the level of competition between each other in this time, phase 2 as opposed to last year?
Definitely. Just it gets guys talking that don't normally talk. Then the way that Coach, he set up the locker room different this year. It's not position groups and you send with your running back group or you send with the receiver group. It's everybody's randomly sitting by each other. So you got to talk to different guys, get to know people throughout the locker room. So it's a great thing, just connecting with the whole team.
How's that been for you so far? Have you gotten to know anybody a little bit better just in this short time?
Definitely. Just, sitting next to my locker mates, talking with the guys that's on my team. We have this thing where we do it's called the 4 H's, where we go and talk about our history, our heroes, our hopes, and our heartbreaks. And all the guys tell their story, and that's just a great thing, just learning backstories, what guys have been through, and what they had to overcome to be where they are now.
Now, I hate when radio hosts make movie references because it's not everybody's seen the movie, but I do feel like most of us have seen Remember the Titans. It sounds like that's what he's trying to do. When Denzel Washington sees that the black players are only sitting with the black players and the white players are only sitting with the white players, and he makes them integrate and he makes them get to learn things about each other so that they talk to each other. And again, that sounds great, but that's a movie. That's not real. The 4 H's? Tell me about your history, your heroes, your heartbreak, and your hemorrhoids. I don't, what are we, what? It feels to me, and I am not being a turd just to be a turd here. But it kind of feels like Brian Callahan went 3-14, sat there in his office and thought, what can I do better? Popped in, Remember the Titans, and thought, that's it. I'm going to be like Coach Boone. That's all I can come up with. Yeah, guys are talking to different guys now, and we got the 4 H's and is this real? Is this an NFL team with made up fake points that don't count for anything? Can you exchange them for prizes like you could at putt-putt? Somebody help me out here. Again, I look forward to the NFL Network's A Football Life. The 2025 Tennessee Titans. From worst to first. Thanks to the 4 H's. I heard that today and I was like, oh, crap. Callahan. Oof. Again, I love him. Good guy. But wow. I want you to get to know each other this offseason. Coach, do we even have to be here right now? Nope. Voluntary. Oh, okay. Let's go to your phones because a lot of people want to weigh in on this. 615-737-1025. Brian says, this offseason, my mind has really changed towards Callahan. At first, I thought we needed to give him another year or two, but I'm really losing hope in him. It seems that the more you hear, the more he's in over his head, and I hope he is wrong. And I hope I'm wrong, the texter says. I do too. I do not want Brian Callahan to lose his job. I want the Titans to have a good season this year. I want Brian Callahan to be the coach for the next 20 years. I think Brian Callahan is a great guy. And I think the world is a better place when good guys get rewarded. And I really mean that. Like from the bottom of my heart. I mean, my girlfriend adores Brian Callahan. This summer, we were in the same spot, vacationing, and we ran into each other. And so we ran into his family, and Lindsay and I were out there, and Jack wasn't even born yet. And Lindsay got to know the Callahans just a little bit, and she just adores them. So, I mean, I want this to work. But then I hear the 4 H's, and I'm like, what is going on here? One texter says, Cam throws a TD in practice, and Callahan says 3 more points for Gryffindor. So a lot of people are making Harry Potter references. I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I read, not watched the movie. I read like the first 3 Harry Potter books, and then I kind of got bored with it. And that's actually a thing that is kind of synonymous with me, which is like I can watch the first season of a show and the second season of the show, but the third season of the show is the same as the first 2. I'm not interested anymore. Like Mission Impossible. Love the first movie. Second movie, good. Couldn't finish the third movie. So when it comes to Harry Potter, like I'm not a Harry Potter guy for whatever it's worth. More of your phones on this. One texter says, this sounds like NFL summer camp. Have they sung Kumbaya by the campfire at night too? Another texter says, I thought this was football, not Disney. I got to say, for a group of people, you people, that love sunshine and optimism and all that stuff, even you people are like, yeah, this is... Again, I'm sitting here listening to these point systems, and they ask Tony Pollard, you know me, I don't care what the players say. If it's not the quarterback and it's not Derrick Henry and it's not, like a very important topic at that moment, nobody cares what the players say. They don't say anything anyways. But when I'm listening to this Tony Pollard press conference and they're like, so what's the prize for this? And Tony Pollard's like, I don't know, but I want to win. I'm like, dude, you make $8 million. You think he gives a rat's ass about whatever made up prize Brian Callahan has in store? I mean, I remember Vrabel had like an off-season player of the year award. You know what they got? The parking spot close to the building. You know what? I do think guys cared about that. Like, I do think it's like, hey, man, I get my dedicated spot right there, and I don't have to, I'm in. Get a day off of practice, I'm in. One texter says, another L. Stillman take without any context to this or any, I mean, I think this is the one where everyone's like, yeah, this is a little ridiculous. And again, I think basically stolen right from Remember the Titans. It's just the 4 H's. What are the 4 H's again? History, heroes, heartbreaks,
and hopes.
No.
I think you and I should have a bonding experience, and we should do this at the end of the show. We should share our 4 H's.
Let's just do it next segment and then get to the phone.
I won't remember.
Reed and I's 4 H's are next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company. Hey, tune in for the Indy 500 race on 102.5 The Game this Sunday. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. and is brought to you by Twin Peaks, home of the 29-degree beer. So Tony Pollard today said that the Titans are learning the 4 H's about everybody this offseason. Here's what he means.
Talk about our history, our heroes, our hopes, and our heartbreaks. And all the guys tell their story, and that's just a great thing, just learning backstories, what guys have been through, and what they had to overcome to be where they are now.
Disney's Remember the Titans, a reality show with the real Titans. So Reed and I decided we're going to do our 4 H's right here for everybody, and then we'll get right back to your phones at 615-737-125. Look, I understand there is something to be said for connecting to one another, but to make everybody, a grown-ass man, do this is really embarrassing. That's what you think's going to solve. You're not going to get the 4 H's and all of a sudden go be the Kansas City Chiefs. I just want everybody to know that. But without further ado, Reed, would you like to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first. Where do you want to start? You want to start with your history? That seems like the appropriate place to start, right? I
agree. History. So here's my history. I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to USN, graduated from there in 2008, went to college at Louisville. I worked for the women's basketball team. We went to the Final Four in the national championship game in 2009. I also did a bunch of other stuff in the athletic department, including broadcasting, PA announcing. I was the guy on the Jumbotron during the football and basketball games. I got my career started at WKXL in New Hampshire. I did the morning news and an evening sports show. I was then went back to Louisville, where I did the morning show as the co-host for 2 years on Drew Diener's show on the ESPN affiliate there. Came back here in 2015, and Jared and the GM started in 2016, and then the Stillman and Company program began in 2020, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since. That is my history. I have a brother, a sister. They both live out of the state, and I have a son who is 5 months old and half Canadian. That is my history. Reed, go.
I love the last part. The half Canadian part gets me every time you say that. I was born a poor white child in Spring Hill, Tennessee, back in the 1900s. Grew up there, went to high school, a proud Raider at Spring Hill High School, went to community college in MTSU, worked in the athletic department there, got my broadcasting degree, went and worked for Pennies and television news on the beach for about a year, came back, started the broadcasting department for the athletic department at MTSU, later went on to work for Titans Radio for a number of years, also country radio for a number of years. Went and had a hiatus in insurance, worked in insurance for a while, came back, worked on another part of town at another sports station, left there to go launch a venture with Outkick, and those guys left there to go work for Jason Whitlock and the Blaze Media Network, and then I somehow was blessed enough to end up here with you.
Okay, so now we're just going to hit one for each. So, all right, heroes. Reed, hero number 1, go.
I grew up wanting to be Jose Canseco.
Really?
Oh yeah. That man, come on. Back in the 80s, man, Jose was the guy.
Okay. I would say my sports hero is Tom Brady. I mean, I think Tom Brady is just the man. I'll never forget when Floyd told me that he was like, the way that you approach the radio is the way Tom Brady approached football. And if I could have had like not a real boner, but like a internal boner, that was the number one thing I ever heard. Number 1 heartbreak, Reed.
I lost my late wife in 2022.
Yeah. And I figured that would be at the top there. For me, I did say 1, but I'll do 2 here. The 2000 Titans, that was my first true real heartbreak in life. Mm-hmm. I thought that team was destined for the Super Bowl. And then when Floyd passed away, I mean, I obviously knew it was coming because he left the show in November and he was passed away the following August, but it was very, very difficult. Okay, more fun. Hopes. What's your hope, Reed?
I hope that we never talk about what's going on at OTAs right now with the Titans ever again. I hope this is a failure and they move on to more important things that are more related to wins on the football field.
It probably will be, but it'll probably be a different coach who gets you there. My hopes are that wherever life takes me, whatever job I end up having, if it's this job, if it's another job, I hope I enjoy it as much as I enjoy this. Like I truly enjoy my job, and I hope that comes across on the radio. And then I put a second hope in there where I hope that my son like ends up being a good guy. I think he's going to be. I know, it's so early, but you can start to see personality developing. I hope he becomes a good guy, and I hope he respects me. Not from the standpoint of like, oh, my dad's my hero. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for when he's my age to look at me and say, hey, my dad was truly a good dude. And that matters to me. I can't explain it, but that would be my 4 H's. One texter says, I'm already tired of this. I cannot imagine doing this with an entire group. And imagine having to do the same thing every day with somebody new. It's like you're sitting down with Tavondre Sweat one day. You're going over your 4 H's. The next day, your 4 H's don't change. So you're just talking to somebody else about the same thing.
First of all, where I come from, 4-H means a different thing. And this was something that we did at 4-H camp when I was in the 4th or 5th grade. Like we had all of these.
What is 4-H camp?
4-H camp was just like a leadership camp. It was a way for your parents to send you out of town for 5 days during the summer to get you out of their hair, basically. So we went and had various activities and stuff. It's like a YMCA camp or whatever, but it's under the umbrella of a 4-H. But we were purposely put together with kids from all around different counties, and we had to have these activities and do this. But we were 9 years old. We were 10 years old. We weren't 30-year-old millionaires.
Cole in Nashville says, imagine if Mike Vrabel asked coaches how he wants to focus on penalties in the offseason. Brian Callahan was his offensive coordinator and brought this idea to Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel might tell him right to his face that this is the stupidest idea of all time. This isn't even 7th or 8th grade level. When I was in the 7th or 8th grade, we had to run for our mistakes after a bad performance or bad practice. You think I'm going to care at the NFL level if I lose 3 points for a made-up game as my punishment? I mean, that's the thing I can't get over is this point system. And like what I can't get over is how much, like, you listen to Brian Callahan talk about this, he really thinks this is going to work. Like he thinks this, whenever he decided to introduce this, he was like, guys, I've got an idea. And I've always talked about this when people do some really stupid things in life, where there's got to be somebody in the room that raises the hand that says, wait a minute, hold on. It's the fact that there wasn't one person that said, I don't think this is a very good idea. That is concerning to me. Like, this is kind of embarrassing. But it's, oh my goodness gracious. 4-H camp. How much does that cost? Maybe I'll take my son there.
We were poor, so it wasn't much.
That might be something that we've got to. One texter says, Jared, remember the Titans was based on a true story. Yes, based. Was it actually a true story?
Also in the 1960s when we were segregated. Like, this is not.
This was like, I'm going to make black people and white people talk to each other that would not normally talk to each other and resent each other because of their skin color.
This was for the good of society.
We were 3-14 last year. I cannot with this. This is wild.
I'm trying. I'm like you. I love Brian Callahan, the guy, but I'm trying real hard to understand these coaching methods right now.
I hope it works. Somebody said, can Pollard not name his 2 locker mates still? I don't know what that's.
It didn't sound like it, because I was waiting for him to say who they were and share some of those heartbreaks, those hopes, and those heroes of his teammates he was sitting next to, but he didn't. That tells me a lot about how serious these guys may actually be taking this.
Unbelievable. 615-737-1025 on the program. Okay, to serious grown-up stuff. The NFL is trying to make some rule changes, and there's one that I just vehemently against. I'm actually against both of them, but one I don't care as much about. We'll do that next. Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. The league meetings, the spring league owners meetings are apparently going on right now, I believe in Minneapolis. I got to tell you guys, am I the only person out here who it feels like there's an owners meeting every 3 weeks in the NFL? I mean, there's one during the season. There's the one where everybody and their grandma, every head coach, every GM, everybody goes in February. There's another league meeting now. I mean, good God, how many meetings do you have to have? Just meeting. But apparently, one of the things that's being discussed at this rendition of the league meetings are NFL rule changes. And there are two things in particular that apparently the league has a rod up their tushies about and they want changed. The first is the tush push. The second is reseeding the playoffs. So the first, the tush push, I like that doesn't really bother me one way or the other. I mean, I see both sides of the argument. I see the side, if I had a vote and if I could vote my conscience, I feel like this is very political and how this all goes down, where if I had a vote, I would vote against banning the tush push. But what happens is one of the owners who really wants the tush push ban, and they don't really want the tush push ban because they're afraid somebody's going to get hurt. They want the tush push ban because they don't want Philadelphia to use it on them, which I think is some sore loser bullcrap. So again, if I had an honest vote, it would be in favor of keeping the tush push because I don't believe in changing the rules to keep somebody from beating you. I believe in figuring out a way to stop it. But you know as well as I do, the way this probably works is, say Jerry Jones wants to ban the tush push. He'd come up to me and say, I'll tell you, that Super Bowl out there in Forest Hills that we're going to bring to your home, Jared, we're going to play the Super Bowl if you can give me this vote. And then if I had the opportunity to have the Super Bowl at my house, we'd have the Super Bowl. So that way I'd have to do that. But again, I do see the harm in the play. I have said this for 3 years or for however long the Eagles have been running the tush push. I have said, look, man, it's going to take Josh Allen running the tush push, Justin Herbert running the tush push, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. It's going to take one of these guys breaking their neck. Knock on wood. I hope it doesn't happen. But you have a $60 million quarterback break his neck on national TV, and that's going to be the end of the tush push. And for some reason, as violent as it feels like that play is, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I think it's going to happen, and when it happens, then it will be banned. So the argument there is, let's get out in front of it. Let's ban it now. Got it. I understand. And if the tush push goes away, and I think it probably will, if the tush push goes away, I'm not going to cry about it. I really don't care about the tush push, but I just don't like the idea of outlawing something because one team's really good at it. So that's how I feel there. The second one is the reseeding. And it sounds like the commissioner wants this. And I kind of hate this. So this is the idea that if a team is 9-8 and wins a bad division, think NFC South, Atlanta, New Orleans, no quarterback, Carolina, owner in the way, and Tampa Bay's pretty good. But so think about a 9-8 team hosting a playoff game against a 14-win team that just happens to be in the wrong division. Minnesota last year, 14 wins on the road against the Rams. I kind of hate this. And I can't tell you why exactly, but I hate it. Now, Chase McCabe would tell you that I hate it because I hate change, according to him. But I think I kind of hate it because I do feel like winning your division is kind of special. It almost feels to me like winning the division is as subjective as something can be in professional sports, or at least as subjective as something can be when there's only 17 games. This isn't like the NHL, where you play every team X amount of times and you play once there and once here. And if it's in the division, it's 3 times here and 3 times there. I mean, there's 17 games. So it's limited as to what you can do. And yet, when you look at the divisions, outside of 3 opponents, you all play virtually the same teams. And not only are there 3 differences on a 17-game schedule, but you play each other twice. I remember in 2002 when the Titans started off 1-4, but they hadn't played a division game yet. And they went 6-0 in the division, and they went 11-5 and ended up in the AFC title game. And there's just something about the division that feels kind of detached from the rest of the league and your conference and everything else that I like. When you win your division, even if it's a crappy division, you've earned it. Like, you were better than the other 3 teams that every year you have to play and every year you have to keep your eye on. And look, I'll admit that even the fact that we have 4 divisions and the way we have the divisions are kind of arbitrary. Why is Baltimore in the north, but Indianapolis is in the south? Why is Dallas in the east and not in the south? So I get it. I understand. But the rules and schedules and situations are roughly all the same for the most part for teams in the division. And is it fair to win 14 games and have to go on the road the way Minnesota did last year? I would say, honestly, yeah, I think it is fair. That's the rule. They could have won their division last year, and they didn't. Well, Atlanta or Tampa or whomever from a crappy division, your division, the AFC South, woof, gets a home playoff game. That's not fair. I'd argue they won their division. They got a hat, they got a t-shirt, and the division still represents a playoff berth. And then the other thing that they're talking about when it comes to this reseeding rule that I don't totally understand is they're talking about reseeding after the playoffs start. Stop. Don't we already do that? Like, this isn't like hockey where there's a bracket, or basketball where there's a bracket. So it's like, hey, the winner of the 16 versus 1 plays the winner of the 8 versus 9. No, you know how it works in the NFL. If the first game, if the 3 seed, well, I guess I was going with 3-6, but now it's 2-7. If the 7 seed wins, they go play the 1 seed no matter what. If the 2 seed wins, then they're going to go play the 3 seed no matter what, as long as the 3 seed wins the game. They're going to go play the 3 seed no matter what. Now, I'm guessing what the reseeding is in reference to is, okay, if we go 1, 2, 3, 4 for the divisions, then after the divisional round, if there's a team that's 8-9 and won their division, as opposed to a 14-win team that get to the divisional round, the number 1 seed would get the 8-9 team and not the 14-win team. And that, I guess, I can live with. That, I guess, I'm fine with. But I guess I just don't think we need to change the rule. I don't understand what the point of this is, other than to reward a team that wins a bunch of games but doesn't win their division. And if they change the rule, and I think they're probably going to, though I haven't been keeping up with the active tracking of how these teams feel, it won't be the end of the world, but I just think it's unnecessary. I think it's silly. Unless you just want to be like basketball, where, I know they have divisions in the NBA, but do the divisions matter at all? It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hockey, those divisions matter because the whole playoff system's all screwed up. That is a playoff system that needs fixing. The NFL, I don't have a problem with it. Now, let me say this. I'm going to put a giant asterisk by both my feelings on the tush push and my feelings on the reseed. I am open to changing my mind. Years ago, I grew up an Atlanta Braves fan, And, there used to be pride. If you're 19 years old, you don't understand this, but if you're 40, you do. There used to be pride between the National League versus the American League. And because I was a Braves fan, I was a National League guy. I remember my dad telling me at the beginning of the 1995 All-Star game when Lenny Dykstra led off for the Phillies. My dad said, the only time we root for the Phillies is in the All-Star game. And so I used to believe that, hey, the National League is better where the pitchers hit and there's the double switch and everything else. And the American League had the DH. And I was fine with the American League having the DH. And there was all this talk about having the DH in both leagues. And I was like, why? Well, my dad and I went to a game in 2019 where the Braves played Washington. And the Braves pitcher at the time, Mike Soroka, was very good, got hit by a pitch and had to come out of the game. So we're sitting there to watch this guy pitch, and he's got hit, and he's out of the game. The next year was COVID, where they kind of had a mismatch of AL and L, and everybody had the DH for that year. And I watched the games. I'm like, I enjoy this way more. I don't want to watch a pitcher's hit. So I realized, no. What I believed for 30 years about the DH, screw it. I want a DH. I don't want to watch pitchers hit. I don't need 10 pinch hitters in a game. I'm good with the way it is. So if, they change the rules and I like it, then I'm willing to say, hey, you know what? I actually like this. Again, if I had a vote, I would vote no on the tush push. I'd keep in the tush push, and I would vote no on division winners going on the road because I think it's silly and I don't think we need to change it. 615-737-1025. We'll get your thoughts in on that. 615-737-1025. Plus, apparently, the commissioner really wants this. I know, I'm a little surprised too. Apparently, he really wants it, and there's a reason why. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. Nashville's best deal. Got to tell you about that. Nashville's best deal is Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon with a buy one, get one free admission. Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon, where parking, tubes, and sunscreen are always free. Get this deal now at theGameNashville.com/deals while supplies last.
Something else to keep an eye on next week when the owners get together, because Rod Wood, the Lions president, let the cat out of the bag. They proposed the change to the seating on the playoff tree at the behest of the league. See, the league's got a new way to kind of work behind the scenes to give a team a nudge to make a proposal that maybe the competition committee for political reasons doesn't want to champion. So the league and the Lions partnered in the proposal the Lions made that when it's time to apply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the teams that qualify for the playoffs, we're going to apply those seeds without regard to whether or not you won a division. That isn't going to happen, but I think what could happen next week, based upon some of the things that have been said by Roger Goodell and Rich McKay, those are the two most important people to listen to. I think we're going to have something that stands for the idea that if you are below 500, you lose your automatic home game in the wild card round. I think that's going to be the end result.
There you go. That was Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk. And he said, again, he's really highlighting that the commissioner is the one who wants the new rules, that wants to reseed the playoffs, wants all of that. And he wrote at Pro Football Talk, Florio did, that the reason why is it would make the late season games matter more. If, again, Tampa Bay is 9-7, and let's just use this. Tampa Bay's 9-7, and who's in a good division in the is the NFC West any good? Yeah, sure, they're good. And Seattle is 9-7. And it's like, okay, well, either Seattle's going to host or Tampa Bay's going to host. That'll make it more interesting. Would it really make a difference? And so, again, Florio saying he doesn't think the league's going to pass that, but he does think that the league is going to pass this if you finish under 500. So if you're 8-9, you don't get to host a home playoff game. Again, what's the incentive for the league to do that? Like, why does Goodell have it, up his tushy to get this one done? I understand the idea of Roger Goodell wanting to play games on Christmas and go to streamers and everything. There's money there. But what's the point of this rule change? I mean, I understand wanting to ban the tush push. Some teams don't like it because the Eagles get a cheap touchdown out of it. And I can see the commissioner, again, we all know the play. It takes one time for Josh Allen to break his neck. And now he's in a wheelchair. Again, knock on wood. Now he's in a wheelchair. And that is not something these owners want. And the commissioner, I get that. What do they get out of this? Well, it'll make the end of the season more exciting. Will it? Well, we can't go to Mamma's today because the Texans are 10-6 and the Broncos are 10-6. So if the Texans lose to Indy and Denver beats Kansas City, who's resting everybody, Houston will have to go to Denver in the wild card round. No, we'll be going to Mamma's that day. Some of these sports have some stupid rules. I've already complained about the NHL and how I think it is so stupid that, for instance, the Predators and the Winnipeg Jets played each other in the second round of the playoffs. Well, we want to get the divisional matchups. Ew. No, I want the best teams playing in the conference final. That's what I want. My theory is they don't want the time differences. Like, they don't want, for instance, Edmonton to be playing at 7:00 Eastern time. So the easiest way to do that is to ensure that all but at most one West Coast team plays all the West Coast teams. That's my only theory of why that would make any sense for the NHL. I also thought baseball had a rule that I thought was total bullcrap, which was the old rule about division teams not meeting, like in division teams not meeting in the divisional series. The Yankees and the Red Sox rule. No, we want them in the ALCS. We don't want them playing in the division series. Again, the way I look at it is, man, it's football. You win the division. You beat the teams that you compete against every year. We don't look during the draft at what the Miami Dolphins do and say, oh, Miami just got this guy, but we do with the Colts, we do with the Jags, we do with the Texans. It's fine the way it is. It doesn't need to change. That's the way I look at it. One texter says, surely a 14-3 team would beat a 9-8 team on the road. Well, Minnesota did not beat the Rams, but I would agree with you. Now, Seattle, I believe, hosted a home playoff game when they weren't very good, 10, 15 years ago. And that was when Marshawn Lynch went beast mode and won the game. I think they played New Orleans that day. And so I'm sure there were Saint fans that were unhappy with that. At the same time, a couple years ago, Tom Brady's last game, Tampa Bay was awful. They won a bad division. And when they won that bad division, they hosted Dallas in the wild card round, and Dak went in there and beat the crap out of them. So I would kind of agree with that. One texter says, the reason for this is the money, Jared. Again, where's the money coming from? Like Roger Goodell wants 18 games. I got it. For the money. Makes sense to me. Roger Goodell wants to play on a Wednesday, even if he has to for Christmas, because of the money. Got it. Roger Goodell wants everybody to play an international game for the money. Got it. If they wanted to have 8 playoff teams in a conference instead of 7, which I would be against, but if they wanted to have 8 playoff teams in there for the money, got it. Because that's an extra playoff game in each conference. But how does this change the money? So Minnesota hosts the Rams instead of Minnesota going to the Rams? Again, somebody explain to me. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. How does that change the money for the commissioner? What does he get out of it? So I struggle with that one. I understand what you're saying, because most of the reason why the commissioner wants to do certain things is because of the money or the branding or whatever. Like he thought it was bad for the league's image when Pac-Man Jones was getting in all that trouble. I got it, because that would turn people off from the NFL. But Atlanta hosting a playoff game when they have a better record than Green Bay, what the hell difference does that make? I'm not sure I understand that. 615-737-1025. Okay. The New York Times. So most sports stories that end up in the New York Times nowadays are The Athletic, which we all know about. Joe writes for The Athletic. And so we know when it comes to The Athletic and that the New York Times sports department is now that. And so it's a sports-based thing. But we also know that the New York Times, they do serious stuff. And that's kind of more world news, etc. Well, the New York Times did a serious breakdown of Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson, and there is a bomb inside that story we're getting to next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hey, the Nashville Sounds have been postponed tonight, where they are set to take on Scranton. So the Sounds, we're getting ready to take on Scranton. I know this because my buddy is the first base coach for Scranton. But they were postponed tonight. Doubleheader tomorrow. Pregame at 4:50. First pitch at 5:05. So the Sounds postponed again. Doubleheader tomorrow starting at 5:05. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
And I know that a lot have been made also in the professional life, but also of your personal life, because it's spilled over into your professional life in a lot of ways. And a lot has been made about your relationship with Jordan Hudson. It's been getting a lot of attention. She isn't here this morning, but what do you think about all the attention that your relationship has been getting?
Yeah, well, she's been terrific, through the whole process, and she's been very helpful to me. She does the business things that don't relate to North Carolina that come up in my life, so I can concentrate on football. And that's really what I want to do. I acknowledged her in the book. She was very helpful on that with the tribute pages and also giving a perspective of the book from kind of a business side. Sometimes I get a little football technical, and so she did a good job of keeping me on balance there.
So what did Jordan mean to you?
Well, we have a good personal relationship, and I'm not talking about personal relationships, Michael. You know that.
Okay, I know that, Coach. But I'm saying, are you happy?
Yeah.
There you go. That was Belichick on Friday on Good Morning America. I got to say, Mad Dog Russo said that there was no shot Strahan would ask Belichick a hard question. I thought, Strahan, he's not a journalist, but he's got to know everybody wants to know the tea, and he's going to get to it. And nope, Mad Dog was right. Embarrassing for Strahan. Now, the latest in the Belichick diaries have me both very and confused, confused and concerned. So the New York Times wrote a massive article today about the relationship with Jordan Hudson and one William F. Belichick. And there were some interesting nuggets in the story. This was not a sports story written by a sports person. This was an in-depth New York Times researched piece. And so there were some interesting nuggets. Number one, the first one, it's the headline everybody's talking about. Apparently, Jordan Hudson told somebody that they are engaged to be married. Now, does that mean that they are engaged to be married? Again, like Belichick said to Michael Strahan, I'm not getting in my personal relationships. I mean, come on now, But apparently, Jordan Hudson's telling people they're engaged. What? Number two, Jordan Hudson did not graduate from college. She stopped going to college in May of 2023, did not graduate. 3, this is from the New York Times article itself. This was in 2021 when Belichick was coaching the Patriots and their love was blossoming. Quote, when she attended training camp practices, she often wore red pants at the request of Mr. Belichick so that he might more easily spot her in the crowd, according to a person who knows Mr. Belichick and who spoke on the condition of anonymity because Mr. Belichick had not given him permission to speak to reporters. Kind of sounds like a sex kink to me. Mr. Belichick requested she wore red pants. Can I follow up with what panties Mr. Belichick requested that she wear? Mr. Belichick also requested that Miss Hudson not wear any panties that day. I'm kidding. Number 4, whatever college she went to, it's in the story. The reporter went to the story and, they had the college had their commencement this weekend at Gillette Stadium. And the guy made a joke. The speaker made a joke about Bill. But apparently whatever Bridgeport State, whatever college it is, I don't know. I don't care. Whatever it is, whatever school she went to in the Northeast, the reporter from the New York Times tracked down the current cheerleaders, asked them about Jordan Hudson, and was told that they are not allowed to talk about Jordan Hudson. We're not talking about her. The way the Patriots used to not talk about Aaron Hernandez. So here's my take. I believe, and I want to underline that, I have no in-depth knowledge on this. I'm just telling you what I think. I believe Bill and Jordan Hudson met through some sort of sugar daddy, sugar baby method. I highly doubt that Bill was brazen enough to be on seekingarrangements.com, which is kind of the go-to sugar daddy, sugar baby website. I don't think this girl was on OnlyFans, or else everybody else would have known about it already, like with Shannon Sharp's alleged, incident. But I believe this started something like that. Again, sometimes they're just looking for company. But I believe this was a sugar baby, sugar daddy relationship. An arrangement, they call it. Bill didn't necessarily pay for sex, but at the same time, he probably kind of was. Number two, and again, I've never been in one of these relationships before, so I don't exactly know how they work. But I think Bill and Jordan were in this secret arrangement. You know, again, how else would you get the $8 million in real estate? Bill fell in love. And that's obvious, right? That at some point here, Bill fell in love, and every safeguard that was inside of that bitter, never happy, cold man has now just been sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows because Bill's in love. Plain and simple. He cannot be away from this woman, and he does not care what it looks like. It is a freaking embarrassment, and he does not care. It is ruining his legacy. He does not care because he loves her. Nothing else matters to Bill. I'm telling you, I've seen this before. We've all been there, right? All my friends don't like her. She makes me upset. She spends my money. But I love her. That's Bill. That's where he is right now. There's no saving that man. Unless he has like an exorcism or something. Now, here's the one thing that I don't think anybody else believes. And I can be talked out of this. Caroline thinks I'm crazy for having this opinion. I think she loves Bill too. Like, I think she genuinely loves Bill Belichick. Caroline said, and again, I don't want to put her business out there, but I'm sure she'd be fine with this, that she thinks that Jordan Hudson loves Bill like how Caroline loves her grandfather. Not the way Caroline loves her fiance. I actually think that this girl loves Bill. But all the extra stuff that gets mentioned in this New York Times story, like her trying to be the executive producer of Hard Knocks and the NFL saying, okay, we're not doing this because we're not putting you as an executive producer at 23 years old of Hard Knocks. Or her meeting with politicians, including like the new leader of Croatia and her $8 million real estate portfolio. That does make it look like she's taking advantage of him. That does make it look like she's just a pure gold digger who's only in it for the money. But I think she actually loves him. Because why else? Like, the money is that worth it? Like, is it worth it to be a joke? Is it worth it for everybody to look at you like the new Anna Nicole Smith everywhere you go? I don't think it is. So I believe. Now, look, I think she is about that cash. And her last boyfriend was also old too. So I think she's got, again, this would be for a psychologist to go through, not me. I think she's got daddy issues. And so she probably, with that, is always in love with these older guys and everything else. And so she probably, again, I don't think it was as obvious as seekingarrangements.com. Could you imagine being a gold digger on that app and Bill B, 73, thumbs up, thumbs down? I can't imagine that. Then again, I couldn't imagine this unless I had seen it play out for myself. I believe they started it as an arrangement. Sugar daddy, sugar baby. Whether that's allowance, trips, whatever. That's how it started. Bill's got plenty of money. We all know it. I believe Bill is going through a 4/5 life crisis. Bill lost his mother, I believe, in 2020. That was his last parent. Bill's friends are starting to pass away. Floyd passed away in 2021, who was a very close friend of Bill's. Bill released a statement without even being asked when Floyd died because he wanted to. So I think Bill, between that and the identity crisis with Brady having gone to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl, because it really feels like his head started to spin off after COVID. So Bill going through that midlife crisis at 70 years old, just like when somebody buys a car or somebody gets divorced and they start dating a younger model, that's what Bill did. And I think that it originally started as a sugar daddy, sugar baby arrangement. It was a secret. You know, hey, I'll give you cash, but don't tell anybody. Hey, don't tell anybody this, don't tell anybody that. And then I think Bill fell in love. That while Bill was paying, for this arrangement, Bill realized, wait a minute, I love this woman. This is my soulmate. And I think she feels probably the same way. Maybe she is just a gold digger. Maybe it is just about the money. Maybe it is just about getting herself, instead of in the bill, in the will. Again, Pablo Torre reports that Bill's kids are very concerned about this. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt right now. I think that they are legitimately in genuine LOVE. Now, some of the things she does seem to make it seem like she's not. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm just hoping for Belichick. But that's my spin on it. Now, the engaged to be married. Bill, what are you doing? And there's no confirmation. The way the New York Times, in fact, let me make sure I get this right for you. When I want to make sure that I get this right because I don't want to be misquoting. According to the New York Times article, quote, Miss Hudson has told at least one person that she and Mr. Belichick are engaged to be married. So that's the info we have on that. Bill, what are you doing, dog? Like, don't marry her. But I do think he loves her. And there is no public shaming. When this dude probably hasn't been in love in 40 years. He was with Linda Holiday forever. Linda, very, very gorgeous. But I don't know if Bill ever really loved her. Maybe Bill didn't even love his wife. I don't know. What Bill's feeling right now, that's love right there. He loves that woman. And so there's to no length that he may go to. No level of embarrassment that Bill may skimp on. Because the heart wants what it wants. And his heart wants her. A 24-year-old who hasn't even graduated from college. And if she genuinely loves him, who am I to judge? 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And then I have another thought that nobody has brought up. And I'm a little surprised nobody's brought this up. This is the reason why it's such a big story. We'll hit that next. 615-737-1025. It's Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The last principle, put the team first, was really the umbrella principle to the on the way in mindset. We probably said it out loud more than any other, and we enforced it accordingly. There was no way to get around it. If you walked into a meeting late, there was going to be a problem unless you had a good reason, and it was expressed to me in advance. I set the tone on this early on. In my very first meeting with the Patriots team during our spring workout phase in 2000, one of our starters walked in 5 minutes after the meeting started and sat down in the front row. I couldn't believe it. I felt like he was daring me to do something. Normally, if a player was late, he would come into the meeting through the back entrance as inconspicuously as possible. I stared at him when he sat down. He returned my glare with a, "Is something wrong?" look. I threw him out of the meeting on the spot, along with some profanity-laced remarks.
That was Bill Belichick's new book, The Art of Winning. Again, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Guess what put me to sleep last night?
You are doing more to squelch the book sales of this book than anyone I know.
Squelch?
Yes. You're playing these excerpts are not selling books for this dude right now. No one is hearing this and thinking, I got to get that.
Really? I mean, first of all, how much would you pay for a great natural sleep aid? You know, not a Unisom tablet, not Ambien, not Tylenol PM, not a pill, but like, hey, this thing will knock you out cold.
I mean, you're contributing, or well, you got it for free, but anyone who's buying this is
I didn't get it for free.
Oh, so you paid for this.
Well, I used an Audible credit, and I have Audible credits because I have an Audible membership, and so I guess I pay monthly, and I used an Audible credit on this book.
You're just that her prenup is just going up because you keep buying books.
So, that being said, that was the serious Bill Belichick. You know, the do your job Bill Belichick, the no days off Bill Belichick, the brand. The Bill smarter than you, Bill works harder than you, Bill is a tougher coach than you, that Belichick, the brand, what he used to be, what we all used to think. So North Carolina, and I have not heard anybody bring this up, but the New York Times story says that apparently Bill has been seeing Jordan Hudson since 2021. Now, she might have been like 19 years old at that point. I'm not going to do the math on that because I don't know the specifics, but that's a little sketch. That being said, it's not crazy for a football coach. You know, these guys are pea-hounds. It would not be anything out of the ordinary for a college football coach or an NFL coach to go after a 19, 20-year-old girl. I mean, you know, Lane Kiffin and all the stories that have, you know, been told over the years, etc. That wouldn't bother me if I was North Carolina. But North Carolina didn't hire this guy. This guy's in love. This guy brings his girlfriend everywhere. This guy's giving her cash. This guy's reportedly engaged to be married. They hired Mr. Do Your Job, Bill Belichick. And so I have to ask, did they do any research on Bill Belichick? We talk about these NFL draft background checks they do and the FBI level security. And, oh no, that guy stole a bag of chips from a mini mart when he was 13 years old. Take him off the board. Did North Carolina, a proud institution that is really taking on the brunt of the embarrassment right now here, did they not do any research on Bill Belichick? Is anybody talking about that? Again, it's one thing to say, hey, Bill is a very particular guy. But for them to just do nothing? Give me a break. 615-737-1025. Some of you out there are like, who cares about Bill Belichick? Let me say this. More people care about Bill Belichick, and I am aware that this is local national sports radio. More people care about Bill Belichick than care about the Titans, who have 0 primetime games. Secondly, The reason this is a story to me, maybe it's not a story to you, the reason this is a story to me, and I think is a story across the country, is because for 30 years, Bill Belichick was the epitome of football over everything. The epitome of seriousness. And now he's letting the flavor of the month just drag him around and ruin his legacy? Give me a break. One texter says if she really loves him, she'll sign a prenuptial agreement. But we all know how most young women marrying old men feel about that. I will say this. You know me, I'm a big duck theory guy. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, and it does feel like this, that she looks like a gold digger here. But I don't think Bill would want her to sign a prenup. I think Bill would look at it like, prenup? I have enough money for everybody, and I love you so much that I want to leave you with the life that you want to live. I mean, it wasn't like, and again, I don't know the specific details here. I guess I'm just assuming. But I personally kind of feel like when it comes to the Patriots and the Belichick that I used to, as I said, used to be a card-carrying member of the Church of Patriotology. And now I'm like Katie Holmes. I look back on her, I'm like, what did I get myself into? Billy from Bellevue says, how do you have any clue what Bill feels? Dude, Bill is in love. Love. One texter says, are you serious? Women do this stuff all the time. It's always about the money. Honestly, you're probably right. Maybe I just want her to love Bill so that it's not as bad as, people may think. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025 here on our program. We are having some bad weather, so keep an eye on that. We may switch over to weather here at some point if it gets really, really bad. We'll keep our eye on that. But coming up next, Brian Callahan talked about how he's going to switch up the reps at quarterback, or how he's managing the reps at quarterback now. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 for the game. Stillman and Company, right now there is a tornado watch for all of Middle Tennessee. So with that, we will go live to Fox 17's weather coverage.